Yes, I guess we all are ready. And I guess we have with us one of the coolest security
Yeah.
researcher in the Ethereum and Substrate space. Hi, Mudit. How are you?
Hey guys, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
So glad to have you with us. Like, it's an absolute pleasure and honor. And yes, we all are pretty much excited, and the community is like looking forward for your talk. And yes, we already have like lots of questions that we have received from the internal team. Like, many people are seeking for your advices, like your approach, like how you tackle different stuff. So yes, we all are like ready, and the stage is all yours. And yep.
Thanks a lot. First of all, pleasure to be here. The main topic I'm going to talk about today is the security trilemma. I'll get started once I figure out how to share my screen. Give me 1 second.
It's just below your window panel.
Yep,
Yes.
people should be able to see the slides.
Right. Yes,
Nice.
it's perfectly visible.
Okay, so the security trilemma. What do I mean by this? The security trilemma, I've defined it as a connection between or a relationship between the usefulness of a product, the funds you spend on securing it, and the risks that you carry by releasing that product. So there's a tight coupling. We'll get into detail in a bit, but before that, let's talk a bit about me. So for those who don't know or don't know me or know very little, I started out as a cybersecurity guy about a decade ago, just a little over a decade ago. I got into blockchains via Monero. In fact, Cryptonote, which was the underlying protocol behind Monero. I started working on Cryptonote in about 2013, and from there, like I really came for privacy, but stayed for blockchains. I've worked on Bitcoin, Ethereum, Polkadot, and a bunch other chains since. I was mostly doing research work on proof of stake and blockchain applications from 2014 to 17. And when the bull cycle started in 2017 and the demand for developers shot up, I transitioned more into a developer role. I've worked on multiple DeFi projects like GovBlocks, Nexus Mutual. I've led development at projects like Polymath, more recently SushiSwap. And now I'm advising multiple companies like SushiSwap, Polygon, Satora, and a few others. And that's like my brief journey. So I've always been uh, inclined towards security, and with the expertise that I gained in blockchain over time, that presents a good combination. Okay, moving on. So let's start with the basic definition of the security trilemma. It revolves around three aspects: usefulness of anything. Let's talk about any product, the usefulness of that product, the cost of securing that product, or like how much you spend on. In case of smart contracts, the cost would involve audits, the cost would involve development time spent on testing and quality assurance and stuff like that. And the risk is basically uh, the chance that something goes wrong. You have to analyze both the chance and the impact. So the risk is combination of both. If something goes wrong, then what would be the impact of it? In most cases, something will go wrong. So can you bear the impact of that or not? That is risk. So let's understand the problem and the relationship between this trilemma. So first of all, what do I mean by usefulness? Usefulness is basically a combination of features and ease of use of a product. So like from ease of use, I mean, uh, the simpler you make the product to use, the less barricades you add for the users. It's very likely that it easier it would be to be manipulated and to be exploited. uh, Easier things, make the best way or the easiest way to make things easy is to remove security features. So stuff like captchas that are a pain in the ass for most people. So someone might just go ahead and remove captchas from their product to increase its usefulness, but that would open the product up to botting and automated attacks. So that increases your risk. Stuff like confirmation from the user. So in terms of blockchains, if you have ever used MetaMask or any wallet, you have to click accept or confirm whenever you are signing a transaction. So that is a security necessity. User experience would probably get better if you don't have to press the accept button or change gas or look at anything. You just click on ape and you ape. But that obviously increases your risk and increases the chances people would get fooled. So yeah, basically in most scenarios, if you try to increase ease of use, you have to be careful that you don't decrease the security of the product. And then features. So features basically increase attack surface of the product. The more features your product has, the more attack surface it would have. So if we talk about a mobile phone, if you enable internet connection on your mobile phone, you suddenly open up to a new category of attacks where like anyone from anywhere in the world can potentially get access to the device and do potentially harmful things. So that is something you have to be careful about. But as you know, like having internet on mobiles is sort of a mandatory thing these days. You can't really live without it. So you have to at the end of the day find a good balance between features and security. If you remove all the features, sure, you might get a super secure product, but it would be completely useless. Imagine a phone that you can't use to browse internet, that you can't use to share SMS, a phone that you can't use to make calls. It would really be a useless product. Sure, it would be very secure. Nobody would be able to hack into it. But what are you gonna do with a brick of a phone? So yeah, that is about usefulness. And then about cost. So uh, the more features you add, the higher it will cost to achieve a baseline security. So if my goal is to do the sort of like a baseline security thing, that is like let's say I comply with all of these standards and stuff, then it would get more and more expensive to do the like compliance if you keep adding features. Doing compliance for one feature is easy, but doing compliance for 100 features definitely costs a lot more resources, both in terms of monetary and time. So there is always that cost thing you need to balance. And the other thing about cost is all, often tied to your overall budget. So if you spend 10% of your budget on security, you'll have 90% left for other things. But if you spend 90% of your budget on security, you'll only have 10% for developing the actual product, marketing, and stuff like that. And even though you might have a fully secure product, nobody will ever get to use it, and nobody will ever realize that exists. So you need to find that right balance in the cost as well. And the last thing, obviously, is risk. So, risk management is a complete, whole new different topic in its own. I can go on talk about it for days and days, but that's one of the like most critical bits in this space, or anyway, to be honest. Risk management entails two things, two main things. One is finding out all of the like potential risks that are in this system. So finding out all the things that can go wrong, finding out the chances that they go wrong, and then figuring out the impact if they go wrong. So you have to basically balance these two things, that like chances of something going wrong and impact if it goes wrong. So let's say if there is a minor bug which is very likely to be exploited, but the impact is very little. So the bug might be like, instead of hi, the software might greet someone with hello. Sure, it might not be the intended feature, but the impact is very low. Difference between hi and hello is not that much. So this is a risk most products can live with without needing to mitigate it. So like this is one risk management strategy, and then there can be risk that you can't really live with or you don't really want to live with. So in a blockchain product, there is always a risk that the let's say it's a DeFi protocol where people deposit their money and it earns yields. The risk there is that the protocol gets hacked and all of the underlying that is deposited in the protocol gets drained. This way, the protocol would lose all of the liquidity or all of the total value it had logged in its system, and this would be a very critical impact. It would be very hard for the product to survive after this. So this is one risk you can't just live with. You need to try and mitigate it to your best abilities. And risk mitigation is the second bit of risk management. First is like realizing the risk, and second is mitigating them. So how do you mitigate risks? You There are multiple ways. One is you try to make the attack vector or risk less likely to happen. Ideally, it would be impossible to execute, but the lower you can make its chances to trigger, the better. The second would be to try and reduce the impact. So even if something goes wrong, you have a fallback solution, or you have some protection that the impact is low. So one way to reduce impact in such a DeFi protocol would be to buy insurance. Even if the protocol gets hacked, you can get a reimbursement from an insurance in this case. So although it would be bad for the protocol, the impact would still be limited. You won't lose a lot of money. So these are like some basic ways to do risk management. And this is basically the trilemma: usefulness, risk, and cost. You need to find the right balance between this. One like quirk or important things to realize about trilemmas and things like these is you can't solve the trilemma, you can only optimize it. You'll see a lot of marketing material stating Dash has solved the Dash trilemma, and something along those lines, changing the future and stuff like that. That's all just marketing material. That's all bullshit. It doesn't make any sense. And the basic reasoning is all of these three things that I described, and all of the three things in most trilemmas, are measured on a scale. They are not a checkbox that you can just check and say, I've solved this. So, like usefulness of a product, it's not a checkbox. You can't say this product is useful or this product is not useful. iPhone 1 was useful and iPhone 13 is useful, but the usefulness of iPhone 1 to 13 has definitely increased. Although maybe not by that much, but it has increased a little. So yeah, it's always a scale. And also with the other aspects, the cost is not a check mark. You can't say like uh, you don't do zero cost and then one cost as a check mark or something like that. It's always a scale. You're spending 10% of your budget or 15% or 20% on security. So it's a scale of things. And same with risk. There is nothing which is absolutely secure, risk free. Even if you use a brick as your phone, there is a risk that someone would just take that brick and shove it on your head or something like that. So there is always risk with whatever you do. So there is no checkbox that you can just tick off in risk management. It's a scale. Some things are very risky, some things are relatively secure. In the blockchain world, you need to optimize for these things. So it's always like a relationship. You need to find a right balance between. You can't just check mark all of the boxes and say you have solved the trilemma. You can only optimize towards a good balance. And that's basically the main idea. So coming back to this line, you can't solve it because it's not a checkbox. You can only scale different things. You can only optimize it. So now you know why you can't solve it. Let's learn about how you can optimize it. So there are basically like three things when it that comes to my mind when we talk about optimizing any trilemma. One is extremes are bad. In most cases, you do not want to reach an extreme. That is, you don't want to be in a situation when your product is completely useless, but it's very secure and has no risk. Uh, your product won't work. There won't be any market adoption. There won't be any product market fit. It will just die. So you don't want extremes. Other examples also include like if you make your product very useful but spend 0 seconds on security, it would definitely come bite you back. Sure, people might love the product in the early days, but something will go wrong, and something will definitely go wrong in a bad way, which would be the end of your product. An example here could be the DAO hack, which happened a few years ago. So there, Although the DAO wasn't built on completely usefulness, they did spend a lot of time on security as well. But that's a good example of how one mistake can really like kill the whole product. Once the DAO went down, really there was no coming back. The second point, now that you are not targeting extremes, the thing you need to figure out is to find the right balance. And there is no single right balance for all products. There are different levels of balances or different types of balances. So in context of blockchains, uh, a layer zero blockchain or a blockchain itself like Ethereum need to focus more on security than it needs to focus on features it provides. Same goes with Bitcoin. You will see Bitcoin is an even like better or bigger example in terms of finding a security focused balance. There is not much you can do with Bitcoin, but what you can do can be definitely very secure. Arguably Bitcoin is more secure than Ethereum at the moment. And they have found the balance there for their particular product. They want to really focus on security while keeping it useful. You can at least transfer money on Bitcoin. It's not like all of your tokens are locked, so it's not a useless product. There is some use case, but they are focused more on security than other products. If we keep walking in this direction, Ethereum uh, trades off some of its security aspects. It adds more features. By adding more features, it adds more attack surface to the protocol. It adds more things that can go wrong, which implies the security is lower, overall lower than Bitcoin. But it's still very, very, very secure, and it's a very good balance for the product that Ethereum is trying to build. Something which is generic enough for other people to build on top of it while remaining fairly secure that you can actually trust it. Then after Ethereum, the scaling solutions like ZK rollups and stuff, they take this to another level where they add more features in terms of rollups and zero knowledge proofs and stuff like that. So these are more useful than Ethereum in general, but these also have a much bigger attack surface than Ethereum. Many more things that can go wrong. They have a good use case in terms of smaller players in retail, but at this moment, due to the risk profile, you won't really see institutions adopting the zero knowledge rollups right away. The future is definitely with the rollups. I feel like the technology will mature over time, the risk will reduce, and a wider adoption will be gained. But at the moment, the risk just doesn't justify the features for the institutes. So, yeah, you need to find your right balance. And the third important thing is adapting over time. So if you find the correct balance on day zero, does not mean that you will have to maintain the same balance throughout the life cycle of your product. The market conditions change, the requirements of the users change, the regulatory situation changes, the in advancements in like crypto technologies increase, and all of these adapt your balance. So you will have to reanalyze how you are spending your resources, how you are dividing your costs over time. Maybe like for most products, they spend a lot of time on usefulness in the early days, not as much on security, and they slowly increase their security budget over time and reduce the like feature budget in some sense, because once the product is already out, uh, maintaining the product or project is a bigger task than adding new features. This is why you will see Bitcoin is more or less the same as it was in 2008. Sure, it has scaled a bit more. It does support a few new features, but it's not like vastly different. If Satoshi comes back today, he would be immediately able to realize what all is happening in Bitcoin. There hasn't much changed at the ground level. So yeah, as Thanos said, perfectly balanced as all things should be. So yeah, you need to balance everything to optimize the trilemma. And that's basically like all of the material I had. uh, we have a lot of time right now, so I can take on questions about this or any other topic you want to talk about. uh, And yeah, I'll open it up to the audience.
All right. Yes. So it was wonderful, and yes, the trilemma is pretty much right there in the
Okay,
ecosystem.
doesn't seem like we have. Okay, sure, Madhvan, shoot your question.
Okay, Madhavan is writing, probably writing his question. So I
Okay, I'll
have one
give a
question.
minute more for
Yes,
questions.
Mudit is right there.
Yeah, for audits right now, you're right. Both the cost and wait lists are quite long. That's basically like free market for you. When the demand is high and the supply is low, the prices increase, the wait list increases. So that's a tricky situation in terms of prices. Very absurd pricing is going on right now. The top tier auditors are charging from 40,000 to $80,000 per engineering week, which is, yeah, definitely uh, super high. But you can definitely get a little more affordable audits with independent auditors or uh, smaller auditing companies. I think Coil Audits does them as well. So, yep. Okay, in terms of multi-chain security, yeah, so multi-chain products right now are quite focused on usefulness, not very focused on the security aspects. As I said, they are just going through the cycle of launching a product that has high usability in the start, and they'll start focusing on security as they gain adoption. Because launching a product with high usability with but low security gives you the market validation that the product is actually going to work. If you get that product validation, market validation, then you can spend more on security. So you will see over time, definitely these multi-chain bridges and all would focus a lot more on the security bits. And yeah, in the future, to be honest, there it's a multi-chain future for sure. But as Vitalik said, it may not really be a big cross-chain future. Cross-chain messaging might be limited to bridging in the near-term future, at least. Uh, but yeah, like overall, this balance would shift towards security. And how can we combat the high audit costs? That's a good question. There is no real solution to this, unfortunately. It's a shortage of talent. The way we can solve this is by getting more talent into the space. The more people who can do audits, the cheaper it would get. Again, it's really about supply versus demand. If we can increase the supply, then things will get better. Okay, so about decentralized audit marketplaces, I'll add one comments with security slash audits. One problem is that they are very, very, very trust dependent. That implies if you give out your project for an audit to someone and they come back and tell you, hey, your project is secure, we didn't find any bugs in it, there is no way for you to verify if they actually even looked at the product or protocol, or they are just like saying this to get paid. So that's why whenever you go out for security consultancy slash audits, it's advisable to go some with someone you trust, who has market reputation, rather than going with someone from a decentralized marketplace who you don't know anything about, because then you just won't get that peace of mind in the back of your head. What do you think of Cosmos security? So, Cosmos is an interesting aspect. To be honest, all of the blockchains, major blockchains, are slowly moving towards that model. Polkadot has that same model of like hub and spoke. The Polkadot chain itself acts as a centralized thing between various parachains. Ethereum is sort of also moving towards that model, not exactly the same, but once sharding lands, The goal really would be to have multiple chains which sort of acts as silos or shards and can communicate between each other. So yeah, overall, I do think it's a good model. It time will tell like if it really picks on or not. But yeah, overall, it does seem like a good scalable model.
Okay, I have one question, but so referring to the security trilemma that you pointed right in your talk. So I want to know.
Okay, I think that's it from my side. Hey, Razor folks, are there any other questions? I can't hear you. I can give me one sec. My headphone might be off. Yeah, you're audible now. So my
All right.
headphone just turned
Yeah,
off.
yeah, no issues, completely fine. Yes, so I was asking about, sorry, the security trilemma, right, that you pointed out. So I want to know what is your experience and observation about this trilemma. Is it like the ecosystem is leaning more towards security or like usefulness, or is it like everything is like at the risky point right now and everyone is just trying stuff?
Yes, so there are protocols, different protocols that prefer different balance of things. So even if you look at the space, if we talk about, let's say, Maker and similar protocols, so MakerDAO, which has its own stablecoin, which is over collateralized, Maker prefers security slash safety over other things a lot more. So you will see Maker won't be adding very risky assets to its basket, and their first aim is to keep the die pegged and secure. But you can also see that the market there is demand for a product in the market which uh, optimizes the trilemma more towards usefulness than safety, and that's where like Abracadabra comes in. It still focuses on security, but Abracadabra focuses a little more on usefulness. You will find multiple different types of collateral being supported in Abracadabra, which do increase its attack surface, but they make the protocol more useful. And you can see both MakerDAO and Abracadabra have a good like market base or user base, which implies there is demand for different protocols that optimize this trilemma differently, uh, just because that's how the users perceive it. Institutional users would likely prefer something like MakerDAO, which focuses more on safety, and retail users will likely prefer something like Abracadabra, which can get them more returns, more money.
Got it, got it. Yes. So there's one more question that we have received internally, but I guess it's a very wide question, but still, like I'm just shooting it up. So somebody asked, like, what is your approach of defining an attack surface? Like, how do you like define like there's a protocol and you are supposed to do a research on that or like find some bugs. What is your approach on defining the attack surface basically?
Yeah, definitely. So, attack surface is basically things that can go wrong. So, when I am looking at the protocol, when I am auditing a protocol and I have to like figure out the attack surface for myself, there are two paths I take. One is just looking at the use case of the protocol, like looking at what the protocol is trying to do and figuring out what can go wrong in that, and like what can be exploited. This is without looking at the code base at all, just thinking from a more like feature point of view. So if the protocol is offering one feature, the attack surface there can be that the feature doesn't work or it backfires or something like that. So I'll create a list with that, and then I'll actually start looking into the code, and from code I'll figure out what attack surfaces can happen. So this would be like white box testing, while the product thingy is more black box. So when I'm looking at the code base, I look at different types of functions, what they're doing. So if there is a function that makes an external call, that means there is an attack surface which is you are passing the context of the call from your contract to a different contract, and then the contract can do anything after that. It can re-enter, it can transfer some tokens, it can do anything basically. So that becomes one attack surface. And I look at different code, like different pieces of code, and all of the code will basically be opening up a new attack surface in one way or another. So you have to keep track of all of these things.
Got it, got it. So yeah, that was wonderful advice, and yes, I hope like everyone would have got some approach, and there must be like if there's someone trying to learn and get into Web3 security, definitely there are some cool new advices and follow ups and startups for you to just quickly get ahead. And other thing that I want to know, just the perspective, like as we have seen, lots of drama that has happened on the Solana ecosystem, right? So, what are your views on that? And what do you think, like how they are approaching this security right now? Because we have like from the Twitter as well, we have received many tweets from their own developers, like what things they are trying to improve, what things they are working on right now. So, what is your view, and what do you think? What would be the new vision for Solana?
Yeah, sure. So with Solana, they are definitely geared towards more on the usefulness side than the security side. The thing is, like, the Solana ecosystem is quite new and immature at the moment. It's more like how Ethereum was in 2015. The only good thing that was going for Ethereum is, um, at that moment, only the experienced folks were building on Ethereum slash using Ethereum. While with Solana, now since the hype is so high, a lot of different type of people are building on Solana. People who don't really understand what they are doing, people who don't care about security and stuff like that. So although the blockchain's balance is similar to what Ethereum has, but people who are building on that blockchain are more focused on usefulness than security, by a long shot, in my opinion. Most of the teams I've talked to on the Solana ecosystem, barring a few top teams, most of the teams on Solana are completely focused on usefulness than security. One main reason for that is there really isn't much resource out there to learn about Solana security right now, and there are very, very, very few auditors who actually audit Solana contracts or Solana apps. The talent or supply is even shorter in the Solana ecosystem. So people are just like uh, launching their products and praying for the best, which implies there definitely are more uh, hacks or like more risk in the Solana ecosystem.
Right, that is absolutely true. It's like uh, not much information available. People are actually interested and looking forward to Rust and all, but yes, a little less. We can say developer ecosystem. Like less protocols are there and less. I would say less information available, less blogs for everyone to read. So stuff like that. But yes, people are interested. We have one more question from Jagdish. He's asking like, I see a lot of bug bounties in Immunify ranging to $10 million. So, what is the advice for people who want to enter this space to help find the bugs or help secure the protocol?
Yeah, definitely. So, if you're just entering the space, I would really recommend that you learn about blockchains first. Then you start learning Solidity a little, and then you start thinking about security. When you come to security bit, I highly recommend playing all of these different capture the flag events. So, Ethernaut, Dam Vulnerable DeFi, and there are a few others who basically have who give you challenges which you need to exploit slash hack to move to the next level. And that way you would be able to learn about all of the common mistakes that different teams make, common pitfalls in Solidity, common attack vectors, and stuff like that. Once you understand the basics, then you should start looking at these bug bounties. I would recommend starting with protocols that are new, rather than protocols who are old and now offering 10 million in bug bounty. So I think MakerDAO is offering that. I might be wrong, but starting out with MakerDAO can be, obviously it's a very high reward, high risk situation there. But I wouldn't recommend new people to start finding bugs on MakerDAO, because it would be hard to find anything there. And if you spend like multiple days, multiple weeks on an app and then don't find anything, it can be a little disheartening. So for newer people, I recommend that you start with newer applications. Apart from Immunify, also look at Code Arena. It's much easier to find issues in Code Arena projects, because those are like unaudited projects. Sure, the rewards are much lower than bug bounties at Immunify, but at least for someone who is starting out, I feel like that morale boost that comes from finding something is more valuable than just going for the top money.
Right, absolutely. Uh, Arvind, can you just share the Coderina link in the chat so everyone can just look around? All right. So yes, that was great. Yeah. Other question that I have, I guess we have some more time. I know, it's been pretty late for you, but yes. Okay. Just some more questions. Is like, talking about Ethereum itself, right? So as we know that Ethereum is kind of like trying to shift from ETH 1 to ETH 2. There will be new sharding and all chains going on. So, but the one thing that I've been following along for a very long time, the core team, there's one challenge there they are trying to solve, is the scalability. So they have been trying multiple solutions like statelessness and all, stateless clients. So what do you think about that? Like, because we know scalability is a problem with Ethereum. So what is your perspective on that?
Yeah, definitely. So, the latest merge that is going to happen in about 3 to 6 months from now, which is technically ETH 2, but we call it proof of stake Ethereum now. ETH 2 no longer exists. So, that change will move Ethereum from proof of work to proof of stake, but it won't do anything for scalability. Scalability will come with sharding. That will happen in about 2 to 3 years is my best guess. There is no fixed timeline for that, but yeah, it would happen late. That would definitely involve scalability. But the underlying problem with scalability in Ethereum is it's not consensus algorithm like some chains, maybe Avalanche would tell you. Consensus is not the bottleneck. Chains like Solana will tell you compute is the bottleneck, and they are improving compute. That's not the bottleneck for Ethereum either. You can easily process more transactions in little time. For example, Polygon is doing with their lower block times and stuff. uh, you can definitely parallelize things, which will improve compute, but it's not the immediate bottleneck. The bottleneck really is data availability, which comes really from the state size and state growth. If you want to be a long term blockchain, you can't increase your state by like 1 gigabyte every day. uh, in a few years, nobody would be able to run that blockchain, and you would just get stuck forever. So yeah, like the main challenge for Ethereum is to figure out how to slow down their state growth and focus on data availability solutions. So that's where like sharding comes in. The goal of sharding is that every node will not have to store all of the state. They would only have to store the state that belongs to their shard, and any other state they will fetch from other nodes. So this will definitely help. Other solutions are being employed, like state rent was being researched heavily about 2 years ago, although the plans have almost been dropped at the moment. It was like the users, they didn't really want state rent, so that's on hold. But there are more plans like uh, stateless clients, as you mentioned. That's definitely one area of active research. If we can make the full if we can make the nodes stateless while still offering the same functionality, then we can worry a little less about state growth, because we won't necessarily need to have full nodes at that point. If there can be like people who are storing data in some way or another, who are like partially storing data, which we'll solve with like some data availability solution. Maybe the state would be put on IPFS on Bit or BitTorrent or something like that. Polygon's Avail is building something similar on top of IPFS, so they are trying to solve the data availability problem. But yeah, that remains the biggest challenge at the moment. How do you increase your throughput scalability without increasing the costs of running the node by a lot?
Right, very true, very true. I hope Ethereum works on that and fix it soon, because the user base is still very much big on Ethereum. And I guess with that, we all are done with our questions. So on an ending note, I just want you to maybe give some advice to new learners or new joiners who want to jump into the Web3 world, Web3 security. Because I've seen, just based on some experience, I've seen that some new guys are just joining because there's a higher reward available in the Web3 security, and they're not much into learning stuff, exploring more into it. So, what do you want to give as an advice to those people?
Yeah, sure. So, my first advice would be that if you are new to programming itself, then don't start with Web3. There is very little learning resource available in Web3 compared to the Web2 world. So, if you are completely new to programming, start with a Web2 tech stack and language. Python and JavaScript are two great starter languages. Once you learn the basic concepts of programming and like building applications and computer science and all, then you can start with Web3 world. When you get into Web3, I would recommend first learning about blockchains. Don't care about smart contracts slash solidity slash security right away. Just learn about how blockchains actually work, how they make the system decentralized, and stuff like that. There are multiple resources. So there is this book, Ethereum book, I'm forgetting the exact name, from Gavin Wood and Andreas. um, it's a good
It's mastering Ethereum. It's
Oh yeah,
mastering Ethereum.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, that's correct. It's a bit dated right now, but it's still like one of my favorite resources to learn about blockchains. So you can start with that. You can watch some courses on Coursera or something like that. A bunch have popped up now. Ethereum org has a new learning page on their website. You can start with that. So learn about blockchains first. Then you can get into smart contracts if you want to. If you want to get into the code development, then that's a different story. But to be honest, the money is at least right now in like smart contracts and DeFi applications. So assuming you'll get into this space, start learning about Solidity. Another candidate there would be Viper, but there are more Solidity resources available than Viper at this moment. So for newcomers, I would recommend getting started with Solidity. Learning the basics, reading the documentation. Sure, Ethereum Yellow Paper is a nice resource as well. So yeah, learn about Solidity, and look at current major DeFi applications to learn about finance a little. The thing about DeFi is that you don't only have to know Web3, you have to know everything. You have to know the finance primitives, have to know the coding, you have to know security stuff, you have to handle risk management, you have to do everything if you want to get into the space. So yeah, start looking into existing protocols, look at their code base, see what they're doing, how they're doing, look at the research they might have published around their security. That would be a good learning resource. Then I'll highly recommend to do CTFs. I think they are one of the best ways to learn security. And after that, you can decide what you want to do. You can do bug bounties, you can launch your own protocol, you can launch you can do like audits on code arena or something like that. Whatever like interests you the most, you can get into that.
Wow, yep. That's like you can say a detailed approach that everyone should follow, and that's the best one I can say. And yeah, I guess with that, we are all done. We have a question from Gene is asking like, are you offering mentoring service? I'm
Not
not sure, my friend. He has lots of work to do.
Yeah, not at the moment, but definitely like if I hire more interns or anyone like that in the future, I'll definitely let everyone know. And that being said, like if you ever come across any problem that you want a solution to, I'm always available through my blog or my Twitter handle. Feel free to reach out.
Right. Yes. Yes. He's uh, like he always in a state of helping the community. Whether you can reach out to him on Twitter, uh, the response might be less, a little, a little bit late, but yes, we can understand he has lots of work to do and lots of research that he's doing. And yeah, I guess we can take one more last question. So is Manish is asking like, what do you think about intersection of crypto and AI ML?
Yeah, definitely. So there are multiple use cases where like which would come handy with crypto and AI/ML. The first use case, which is already being heavily used, is really KYC slash AML. So people, companies like chain analysis, they are going heavy into machine learning to figure out like any bad actors in the space. So if anyone is like really interacting with a institutional thing like a bank or something like that with crypto, the bank wants to know if that crypto is clean, if it has not been stolen or anything like that. And AI/ML can definitely come handy. It can pick on patterns which can point out like bad actors in the space. It's being used heavily. And the other use case I'm like pushing for these days is decoding of transactions that you sign. So if you have used MetaMask to access DeFi applications, you would have noticed you have to sign some data every time you do a transaction. But just looking at the MetaMask, you have no idea what you are actually signing. So yeah, like uh, AI ML can definitely be used there to build some sort of an antivirus which can detect like weird behavior, weird signatures, and like fraud detection. Obviously, the first use case, that's the right word. Here with MetaMask, it would be sort of fraud detection, but for the end users, if the wallet can warn a user that hey, you are listing your ape for 1 cent, it sounds a bit low than the market price for a bored ape, you might want to reconsider. That sort of warning and everything can eventually happen with AI/ML. It will take time. It will take years and years to build, but that's would be a one very interesting use case.
Right, and maybe someday we can possibly stop some attacks with that as well. Hoping for the best in the space. But yes, I guess we are done, and I just want to say thanks to you for taking out some time and being a part of Unchained. It was completely an honor, and yes, some of the coolest advices that you have given, like from this session. We discussed about the security trilemma. We observed what is going on in the ecosystem, different chains. We have, I guess, literally touched many of the new topics and that are really required to discuss. So just once again, I can just say thanks, and thanks for being a part. And I just want to say, don't stop here. Just keep on doing your research and sharing your information. We all need those. And yep, with that, I would like to say goodbye to you and have a great day. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see you soon, probably in another event.
Yep, sure. Thanks for having me. It was pleasure talking and some wonderful questions from the community. Have a nice day, everyone.
Yeah, have a nice day with it, and see you on the other side. Bye bye.
Cheers.